Hey guys, Tom here, just doing a quick video while I actually have some time, and going to be doing a comparison, just a quick comparison video between the Manix 2 and the Paramilitary 2. I was looking for some good videos on this subject when I was looking to purchase the Manix 2, and I wish I had a comparison video that I could have gone to for my decision, which I'm glad I did, because the Manix 2 is an outstanding knife, just top notch. For the money, I don't think you can beat this knife for the money. $67 on Amazon, impossible to beat this. If you can tell me a knife that will beat this in quality, fit and finish, and durability, I would really like to know what knife that is, so I can go and buy it. So this is going to be just put the ruler out in here so you guys can see. We'll line both knives up, tip. So both knives pretty much have a 3-inch cutting surface. The Manix probably has a little bit shorter of a blade, but overall it's a shorter knife. The Paramilitary 2 is a little bit longer. It's sitting in at 8 1/4 inches, whereas the Manix sits in at 8. So, but it's pretty much handle length where you're getting the extra length in that. They're very similar in length, and in width they're a little bit different. The Manix sits at about, its widest point of the handle is 1.5 inches, whereas the Military is about 1.25 inches. So it's a little bit wider in handle, so it fills the grip a little bit more, which is nice. It's a really nice, comfortable, ergonomic knife. I find it's more ergonomic than the Paramilitary. The Paramilitary is just a lot lighter, and I find the choil is a little bit nicer, works with the blade shape, whereas the choil on the Manix, because it's a very spear leaf point kind of shaped blade, I find that a lot of my tasks I'm using in this choil here, on the actual handle, I rarely have choked up on this knife. Maybe for a few things, but mostly this way, for cutting fruit and whatnot. So blade steels, the normal version is an S30V. This is the S90V. This is a CPM, not CPM, 154 CM. This has amazing edge retention qualities, and I find it's very up there with this CPM S90V in edge retention. Not edge sharpness, but edge retention for sure. This blade can get really sharp, but I've been able to get this blade pretty damn sharp, and sharp enough that I can cut open a can of tuna with it. So that comes into the blade design as well. So the Paramilitary 2, you get a full flat ground, which is fantastic for most tasks, and I love it, but I honestly prefer the hollow ground of the Manix 2. I find that it has a finer edge, because it can have the extreme thickness at the top, but then it gets very narrow at the end, and you can see that in the tip here. It stays thick till about right here, and then that's when the hollow ground starts. So you have a very thin tip, but very strong tip too. This knife is extremely durable, versus the Manix, which kind of starts to shallow down, or the Para 2. The Para 2 doesn't have as narrow as a tip, but they're both just as strong. The differences are very minute, and I actually think the Para has a thicker blade, starting at the opening hole here. But it starts to drop quickly because it's full flat ground, whereas the Manix starts to drop at where the grind starts. They both have the same size opening hole, and I honestly prefer the deployment of the Manix. Now, but they're both great deployment. The only thing is I am left-handed, so the compression lock works well for right-handers because you can get a firm grip on the blade as you're closing, and for that matter opening if you like. And I find it works great in my right hand, but not so much my left hand. It's hard to open and close because obviously you go from holding the knife like that to actually holding the knife like this, so very securely. So whereas here I can get a good grip both sides. I always have the same identical grip on the knife, so it's very easy for me to open. And this is just a personal preference at this point because I'm a lefty, so it's a lot easier for me to do this both. And actually, because of the width of this knife, you can see the difference in profile. I find it's wider. The hole is a little bit further out than the Paramilitary. As you can see, it's quite a far ways out, and these are almost lined up back to back. So it's a little bit farther out. So I find that the oh, that hurt. I find that the finger flick, the middle finger flick, is actually a more reliable opening technique for this knife versus the thumb stud, as your thumb is a little farther out than you're normally used to. See, I'm almost on a 90-degree angle, or a 45-degree angle for my hand, whereas I'd like to keep my finger nice and tight to flick it forward. I just find it a little awkward, so the finger flick is a great technique for this knife. And it works just as well on the Paramilitary, but as you can see, it's awkward for me to close. So, and because of this, the detent on here, it's for just slow opening. You really got to put a lot of pressure to get past that detent. But once you do, it's very smooth. Versus the Manix, you don't really have much of a detent. It stays in the handle really well, but it's very smooth because of the locking mechanism. The lock comes very stiff when you get it, but when you work it in, it's very smooth after that. It took a few days to get a little bit worn in, I guess you want to call it that, but once it did, it's excellent. So I'm just going to cut it off here. I didn't want to go too long, so if you have any questions on either knife, put them in the comments or PM me and I can give you an answer. I just wanted to do more of a visual demonstration on the differences of the two knives. I know a lot of guys like visuals. They just want to see, like myself, they want to see how they look in comparison. They know how the metals perform or how the knives perform. If you own a Spyderco, then you know, a higher quality one, they're all going to be similar. So as far as the quality goes, especially with the USA made knives, and these knives are amazing for the money. This knife was in the $200 range, this knife was in the $67 range, and as far as I'm concerned, the quality is exactly the same. There's no difference between them except for materials. Fit and finish is amazing on both knives. The Manix, for the money, I can't believe that you can't get more high quality knives for under $100 if this is what they can produce in the US for 67 bucks. This knife is spectacular. Like, I'm not afraid to kill this knife and put it through its paces. So don't be afraid to get a Manix. It's a little larger, it's heavier, but you know what? What it can do outweighs the negatives on this knife, and there's not very many. So that's all I got, guys. So again, any questions, comments, feel free to ask. If you want me to do any kind of more demo or angles that I didn't show, and you wanted to see something specific closer up, let me know, and I'll make a video whenever I have the chance. Alright, thanks guys. Take care. Peace.